Welcome to the electrifying world of the Marketing AI SparkCast, the go-to podcast for uncovering the revolutionary influence of artificial intelligence in the realm of marketing. Join Aby Varma, a visionary in B2B marketing, as he guides you through the dynamic and ever-evolving landscape where technology meets creativity. Each episode promises to ignite your curiosity and inspire you to harness the formidable power of AI to redefine the future of marketing. Get ready to fuel your mind with innovative ideas and trailblazing strategies that will set your brand ablaze in the digital marketplace.
Hi, all. Welcome to the Marketing AI SparkCast. So in today's episode, we will get our hands dirty and we will talk through some actual marketing use cases which would enable you guys to start using AI in your everyday workflows. And to guide the conversation, we have an amazing and inspiring guest with us, Ruth Favela. She is the AI marketing manager at Tomorrow.io, where she uses AI to improve marketing strategies, including content marketing, campaigns to support demand generation, and more. Ruth has an amazing story of her own AI journey, and we will hear that from her directly shortly. But Ruth, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so good to be here.
So, Ruth, you've had a pretty inspirational journey transitioning from an editor to spearheading AI-driven marketing initiatives as an AI marketing manager in just a few years. So tell us a little bit about yourself for context to our listeners and how it all started and how you made that journey from an editor to your current position of an AI marketing manager.
Yeah. So, hi, everyone. My name is Ruth Favela. Like Aby said, I am the AI marketing manager at Tomorrow.io. Tomorrow.io is the world's leading resilience platform. We help organizations like Uber, JetBlue, and Ford mitigate weather risk using AI-powered weather intelligence. So if anyone wants to know more, please let me know. So my journey with AI began a few years ago, actually. I have been a marketer for almost 6 years now. Wow, I feel old. But in my experience, I started out as an editor and really learning everything that marketers create, right? From video scripts to blogs, social posts, white papers, ebooks, you name it. I was editing all of the content and I was really learning what makes good content and all of that. So I transitioned from being an editor when I joined my first AI startup a few years ago. I joined as I was the first content marketer hire. I was the first content marketer. I'm going to start over. So I was the first content hire at this AI chatbot startup, and I was their second marketing hire. So there was me and my head of demand generation, and really I became the voice of that company. But in becoming so, I had to learn a lot. Part of my onboarding at this company was learning all about AI. What is a large language model? Because at that organization, we were built on an LLM. It was an organization that would ingest data, train it on their proprietary algorithm, and then do some things for you. And so in doing that, you can imagine that I had to understand what is AI, what is natural language understanding, what is machine learning, and how do all of those matter and why do they matter to someone within customer experience, for example. And so I had to really learn along the way. And I was also writing about the things that I was learning to this audience. And so I had the opportunity to grow their content. The day I got hired, they had about 10 pieces of content on their website. And I was later laid off, but by that time, they had over 100 pieces of content on the website. And I scaled that using an AI tool. And people don't think about the AI that existed before ChatGPT and generative AI became such a massive thing, because I feel like we maybe forget that some of the tools that we had actually were already AI. And so in doing that, I scaled their content. I was doing all of that stuff. And what was the popular term in like 2021 at least, was conversational AI, especially in the chatbot world, right? Like how had chatbots evolved? Part of my learning experience at that organization was literally a history of AI. I got to learn that in the early 2000s, what people perceived to be AI was not actually AI, right? So like 20 years ago, we thought AI was what it is today, which is crazy. When really all AI was 20 years ago was AI or like decision trees and if-then statements. And so I had to learn about that history and how things have changed and how, people were wronged by AI because it was something that they didn't actually understand. And so I've taken it upon myself to actually understand the AI and understand how it's going to work for us. And so I tell people that AI is a tool. It's a new process. It's like learning how to do research and understanding that Google has advanced settings that make things so much easier for you to do. And it's an opportunity for us to embed this new tool into our processes, because with smart technology, we can actually do so much more and do it faster. So yeah, that's kind of my journey. I learned about AI. I got to educate people about AI. And right now, the role that I'm in, I found it because someone who's connected to my CMO shared a role for someone hiring an AI marketing specialist. And I saw the job and thought, okay, I think I've learned enough about AI and how it works to actually help us do things that I could come in and support whatever this team needed as well.
Awesome. Well, that's a really fantastic journey that you've had, and congratulations on that journey thus far. So we've all heard of a marketing manager, but to our listeners, how would you define an AI marketing manager? That is not a common role that people see, but what is your definition of that?
Yeah, I actually think I'm one of the only AI marketing managers. When Tomorrow was hiring their AI marketing specialist, there were articles about them and how this was the first hire. So it's pretty interesting to see. If I were to define AI marketing manager, an AI marketing manager is a Swiss Army knife. Like in my role, I'm a marketing manager who is responsible for looking at content marketing specifically with an AI first approach. I support. I'm not just supporting content marketing though. I support all functions of marketing with AI as the driver whenever possible. So I am primarily working on content because that's really where we've seen more of an AI boom in technology and the software that's available to help support content. And so I was hired to create a content marketing strategy using what we had already, right? So I had an existing blog and I came in with an AI tech stack to support content marketing. But in my role, I'm not just doing content, right? Outside of I'm supporting event marketing, I'm supporting product marketing and creating sales enablement material. I'm also supporting lead gen by creating email and that kind of content and that kind of material. But outside of the marketing team, I am also a cross-functional advocate of AI within my organization. I am kind of like the company's AI driver. We're a really unique organization in the sense that we are not only weaving AI into our product. Tomorrow.io uses machine learning algorithms in their software, but I am also trying to drive the adoption of AI with the help of AI captains across the organization. So I'm the marketing AI captain, and we have leaders across the other teams, and we come together to really figure out how we can enable the rest of the organization with AI. And it truly began with marketing at Tomorrow.io. By hiring an AI marketing manager, they were able to find someone who understood, like, I don't know, the state of AI at the time and how it was supporting marketing. And then I came in and was able to teach everyone how things are working, find new ways to do it, and then also bring some use cases to the wider organization.
Love it. Yeah. Sounds like a marketing manager who is knowledgeable about AI and brings in AI into all their processes. But then also sounds like an evangelist cheerleader inside the organization for other functions to adopt AI. So awesome. I think this is such a unique position to be in, and given all the potential of AI, I think much needed in a lot of organizations. And it's actually not uncommon for a lot of organizations where marketing teams or they look at marketing teams to kind of play that role of being an evangelist and being a cheerleader. So awesome, great to hear. But let me ask you something. As you know, all of us kind of know more about AI and have sort of realized that it's a game-changing technology, and there isn't going to be any function that is going to be untouched by AI moving forward. You know, marketing just being one of them. Do you really see, and frankly, even within marketing, I know there are different functional areas, but do you see the AI marketing manager as a role? Do you see more of that, or do you think that people will just start leveraging AI in whatever they end up doing? So if there's an SEO person, they will just leverage AI. If there's a graphic designer, they would just end up leveraging AI, and that would just be the way that they would do marketing. But I would love to get your take on how you think that this would evolve.
That's a really good question. Surprisingly, I haven't seen too many other, I don't know, I feel like Tomorrow.io is a very unique organization, and we're also a startup. So I try to compare startups. I haven't seen too many other startups take this approach with their marketing and hiring one specific person to drive AI. What I am starting to see a lot of, though, is newly listed content marketing roles or demand gen roles require you to understand AI. And so while I think my organization really was like, they were very early adopters into all of this stuff. And so I feel like we took the approach of, okay, do we hire a salesperson or a customer success person to help drive those functions of the organization? Or do we hire someone on the marketing team who can support marketing, but also work cross-functionally using these tools that are available to them? And I think as I've had more conversations with marketing friends, I've also seen that, we think that in a few years, we're all going to be AI marketing managers. Like, we're all marketers who are using AI. The organizations who are driving an AI person, I think, are likely doing things that other organizations aren't thinking about doing. But in the future, I think we're all going to be using AI. And whether you have someone who is solely responsible for it on your team, you still are going to have to hire people who know how to use it. And the levels of how much they know will depend on what your team and your organization needs at that time.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah, I think in speaking to a lot of marketing leaders and a lot of CMOs, their opinions are very similar to yours, where they almost feel like all marketing functions need to have that AI expertise. Yet they feel there's the role of an AI coordinator, or the marketing operations person being kind of the AI person who would evangelize, manage, coordinate all AI related initiatives, not only within marketing but with other departments, much like the role you're playing currently at Tomorrow.io. So
yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I think there's also somewhat of a gap right now. Like, I feel like you see these large enterprise organizations hiring an AI, like a chief AI officer or like a head AI person, right? And then you see these much smaller organizations hiring AI leads for specific teams. And so I'm wondering, like, what is going to bridge the gap between those? Is it going to be more of the individual AI leaders per function, or is it going to be more of an AI officer for the entire organization? I'm still curious to see how things are going right now, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, I feel it could be a little bit of both, where I think your head of AI or chief AI officer could be the person that's sort of setting the policy and the governance and the guide rails and the direction in coordination with the executive management team for organizations. But at a individual team level, you still need AI savvy people to take that vision and bring it into life. Because I don't really foresee organizations, appointing a new department level AI head for every department. That would be an expensive kind of way of approaching it. So I have a feeling that the chief AI officer or an AI head may set the direction, including training and education, which is so important, which is kind of what you're doing, within your own organization. So so I think it'd be interesting to see how it all evolves, within organizational structures. But I do believe and agree with you. I think it's just going to be where everyone's job is just going to have to come with the knowledge of AI to some degree in whatever functional area that they end up doing, whether it's finance or marketing or HR. There's going to be some AI would play some kind of role in it. Awesome. So let's switch gears, and like I had set up the introduction of this podcast, is I want to talk specifically about some use cases in marketing and how the marketers who are listening can get their hands dirty and really get into the weeds. And based on conversations you and me have had before, I want you to share kind of 4 use cases that we spoke about before, right? So the first one would be, market research that you guys have done. The second one would be content marketing, blogs, video. I'm clubbing in social media as part of that. The third one, I would want to talk about content repurposing. I think that's an amazing use case for AI. So let's look at use cases that you've done, which is really leveraging webinar content for other marketing campaigns. So we'll look at that. And then the fourth one is product marketing. And Ruth, when you dive into each one of these, I think what would be awesome to know a little bit about the process and the workflow you follow, but also the other tools that you guys may have used and in your experience sort of help the process along. So we can dive in one at a time. So let's dig in with market research. Walk us through what you've done and how our listeners can do their own market research leveraging AI.
Yeah. So in my role specifically, the kind of market research I'm doing is all related to content, or it's related to taking Tomorrow.io's own data and turning that into something else. To give some more context about Tomorrow, like I said earlier, we are a weather intelligence company and a resilience platform. Weather intelligence is the difference between, so right now, as weather stands, your forecast will tell you there's a 40% chance of rain. Bring a jacket. Great. What does that tell me? That doesn't tell me when I need my jacket. That doesn't tell me like anything else about this. What weather intelligence does is it tells you there's a 40% chance of rain. You can go run your mile today from 4 to 5 p.m. because that's the window that you have open. And so you can imagine that there are so many use cases, not only for like our individual selves, but also across every kind of organization. So at Tomorrow, we have all of this data in like ourselves. And so what we do a lot of the time is, okay, how do we take these vast data sets and turn them into something that we can market with, that we can provide insights to our actual audience with? And so sometimes we'll like use a GPT, or we'll like combine, we will meet with our data team in order to figure out creative ways to leverage that data to go outbound with. So that's one example of how we were using AI within just like our own personal data. The other thing that I do, so as a content marketer, I am constantly having to get customer insights or audience insights to pull into my own content, right? And what does that mean? That means that I am looking for sources, combining data, and then trying to put it all in one place that I can actually use it out of. And that part's hard. So sometimes I'm going to rely on other people who are doing that for me. So one of my favorite tools to use is Spark Toro. Spark Toro, you can like put in an audience, put in something they search, and you can get some insights related to what they're looking for online. And you can also, like, it'll straight up tell you how you can leverage that data in your own content. And so I will use Spark Toro. I also use Perplexity to find just more tailored insights that I can use to develop additional content. It's just a much better user experience than trying to Google things and using advanced settings. You can just ask Perplexity a question and it'll pull up some citations for you, which is really, really awesome to use. So those are 2 AI-powered tools. You can try to do some of what those tools do within like tools like ChatGPT or Claude, right? And do each individual step. But when you have an AI powered platform for that one use case, you are usually better off. And it is just much more helpful too.
Nice. I think that's super useful. And I think whatever research you guys are doing, I mean, obviously the most effective application of that would be in our second workflow, which is content marketing. So your team's producing blogs, videos, social media content. How do you take the output of your research and then work that into your content marketing workflow, and what AI tools are you using there, and how do you all stitch it up together?
Yeah. Okay. So our content marketing is where I live. when I first started at Tomorrow, I presented an AI tech stack and an AI repurposing flow to my leadership. And so my theory was, okay, we have all this amazing existing video content. We have an existing blog. How can we now create a video first AI driven content strategy that allows me to start with one piece of content that I can then turn into 10 other things? Mm-hmm. That was my goal. Okay. I was just like, we have all these things living in silos. How can I condense it all so that it's one individual strategy? And to me, that means leading with video. So because when you create a video, what are you creating? You have to create your list of questions. You have to create your outline, right? That's an outline, right? You have an outline. And when you have your outline, you can then decide where you can turn each individual question, header, whatever you have into additional content. So that's really like how my brain works. If I can create a flow and a template for how I'm going to do this process, I can do it over and over again. And video first allows me to do so much more because then I can turn those into video clips, audiograms, and I can feed my SEO engine while also feeding my social media engine, while also enabling my sales reps with employee advocacy material. So I'm like doing all of that by starting with a video.
Nice.
Right. And so the 3 tools that I'm using every day for content, for video, that whatever, I am using an LLM, whether I'm in ChatGPT or Claude. Right now, I'm living mostly in ChatGPT because I can create individual GPTs that help me do individual tasks or help me do repetitive things that I'm doing all the time, right? To create video, I am using Descript, which allows me to record, edit, create audiograms, create other pieces of text. They now have AI embedded into the video editing tool. So there are actions you can take on your transcript. And when you start with a video, you are also starting with the transcript, right? You have a conversation, boom, you have a 40-minute conversation and a 2,000 word document that you can now use.
A lot of content there. Yeah.
So much content. And I feel like this is kind of what people are like, well, how do I make more? Start with a video. Start with a video because you empower yourself to do so much more. And so I'm using ChatGPT or Claude. I'm using Descript. And then the other tool that I use for actual optimization, because it's one thing to create the video, to create your blog from your transcript. How do you now optimize that for SEO? Why are we optimizing for SEO? Because when you created that original video, you probably had a keyword in mind, maybe, right? I'm a big proponent of not letting keywords run your content strategy, but the video or the asset that you made is still going to serve your audience something, right? Like you still had value in mind. So how can we tie a keyword that you want to rank for into that? Then you have a keyword. You have keywords mixed into the actual video that you're creating so that when you repurpose it, you have keyword driven highlights for your SEO, right? Mm-hmm. So I use a tool called Letterdrop right now to optimize my content. In the past, though, I've used a tool called phrase.io, which I highly recommend. That's what helped me scale content at the AI chatbot company I was at, and really drove how I did content strategy there. So those 3 tools allow me to create outlines that then feed into video scripts that then help me create videos and that I can then turn into other types of assets for social media, website, blog. And then you just think about the possibilities of everything you can do with video. When you have a video, you have something for YouTube, which gives you another link, right? So just think of all the linking you can do. There's so much. I could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I can see you're super passionate about that. And I think that's super, super smart the way you're approaching it, because, one sort of video becomes your mothership, all the derivatives that you are getting out of it is pretty phenomenal. And I think a lot of people do video, but maybe have not thought through, taking all that, taking your video content and using some of the tools that you mentioned to transcribe it and do derivatives of written pieces, of social media, of email, of all the different applications that you came up with. So I think very useful. So let's look at, I mean, in a lot of ways, this is you're taking video and then you're doing the derivatives, which is content repurposing in itself. But I want to touch upon a very specific use case for content repurposing. So, for example, it is not uncommon for a lot of organizations to use, webinars as a demand generation, engine within their organization. And I see that, there's obviously a lot of promotion and sign up and calls for sign up and all that kind of stuff leading up to the webinar. But then after the webinar happens, really, other than perhaps sending an email with a recording to all the webinar attendees or the ones who signed up but did not attend as a follow-up, it pretty much ends there, the workflow. But sounds like that is something that you guys are doing much more than that, and it's an amazing use case for AI. So tell us a little bit about how you guys are approaching that.
Yeah, so just how I described, actually. When you are running a webinar strategy, you're constantly creating video, right? Like I know marketing teams who do at least one webinar a month, and you have this never-ending content engine. And so I think what people are forgetting to do is let's create webinars, but then also how are we using that content to help fuel our SEO and our website traffic, not just get us more leads and get us more registrants to this webinar, right? So if you're routing a webinar strategy, you're running a video first content strategy. So just think backwards about what are we trying to do with this at the end of it? Where is it going? And if you have that in mind from the beginning, then you're already creating all of those assets. So when we've done webinars in the past, or just videos in general, that's what I'm thinking about from the start. Where is this webinar video going to go, right? It's going to be a webinar. It's going to go on YouTube. It's going to go on socials. It's going to be used in an email sequence, right? So then that tells me how many videos I need at the end. And you can just work backwards with how you're creating content. Take your webinar and cut it into the assets that you need for those channels that you determined previously. And then also you now have these video snippets. What can you do with them? You can create a video library or a playlist on YouTube. Continue to fuel your engine and pause and think about where exactly is this going so that you can get more out of repurposing your videos and your webinars for other campaigns. Because I think one thing that we forget that we tend to do as marketers as well is we're constantly thinking about what comes next, and then we just move on to the next campaign. Right? Well, what about that webinar you did 2 weeks ago? That webinar, I bet, is related to the webinar you're doing this month. Can we do something to, I don't know, connect the content and then create additional assets for this? Right? Like that is really where we need to pause and think about how and where our repurposing stuff is going to live, so that from the beginning we can think about, well, what does this flow look like and what exactly am I getting out of it? So I honestly, I mind map how my ideal flow will look like. So I have something in Figma that says repurposing workflow, webinar, blog, email, socials. And then those branch out into the individual videos that I need. And boom, now I know that I need 8 video snippets out of this webinar. And I need to think of other ways to use those snippets if I can.
That's so cool. Do you work backwards? Like, do you know what the snippets you want and then work backwards to a webinar that is covering all those topics would be useful, or it's the linear way where you start with a webinar based on whatever demand that you're trying to generate and then develop derivatives there? I don't know that one method is better than the other. I was just curious about how you guys do it.
Let me see. My brain works in buckets. Right? Like I have a webinar and I'm thinking about a social bucket and then what's in that bucket. In the social bucket is LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I need something I can use for each one of those. But I'm not necessarily thinking about that when I'm creating the webinar. When I'm creating the webinar, I'm thinking about what do my customers want to hear and why, and what is the purpose of creating this webinar in the first place. And then in your actual webinar, you want to address the things that you think are also going to fuel your SEO. So for example, let me think of something. Like in the world of weather that I live in, I can educate someone on a weather parameter, right? I can talk to you all about hurricanes, but I can, and like, I know that hurricane whatever is going to be something that my audience cares about. But more specifically, they care about hurricane mitigation, right?
Okay.
So I could have a webinar that's all about optimizing reacting to hurricanes, but the questions I'm asking are going to be about hurricane mitigation, right? So now I have this whole video about hurricanes, but each of the questions, my subheaders that would be on a blog, are those SEO topics that I care about. So that in your conversation, you're naturally weaving in those topics so that, for example, if you were to just take the transcript of your video and ask AI to, like, prompt AI to turn that into a blog, you would then have those SEO things already in the blog.
Yeah, that's very cool, very handy, and I think I'm just thinking the possibilities of just content amplification are just like massive. So super interesting to know. So let's switch to the last one about product marketing specifically. How are you using AI in your product marketing workflows?
Sales enablement. All of it. Like, product marketing is the one function at Tomorrow where we don't have anyone dedicated to product marketing. So you can imagine, as a small team, we're a team of 5, we are now trying to figure out how to do it collectively. And you can do that with individual GPTs, with AI prompts, with that kind of thing, as long as you're being smart about it, right? Like, make sure you're not sharing private data that is relevant to your specific product. For anything proprietary, we just do it ourselves, right? We do it ourselves, but if anything, we're using AI to help us figure out, okay, how should this be organized and what information matters most? And here's this really long sentence. Can you turn this into something that my sales team will understand? You know, like, rewording things like that, trying to help us figure out what, like, for example, I create a lot of one-pagers. We have a big product release coming this week that I can talk about. So we have this release coming out, and part of this release, I've had to create a lot of assets, right? I've had to create videos. I've had to create a demo. I've had to create a blog, social content. And I'm still thinking about, well, what other stuff should we be doing? And one thing more recently that we've had to make is an internal deck for my customer success team to teach them how to sell this, right? So a lot of the information is pretty technical, and it's not something that I can just turn into words that they're going to understand. So sometimes sometimes I use AI to help me create, or to help me hone on the value prop of what we're trying to do, and then communicate that internally and create assets for internal enablement. We'll use ChatGPT for that, or Claude, to help us figure out exactly what should be included in that.
And perhaps all the research that you mentioned at the beginning of the process, where take all that research, take the technical piece of information, convert that into easy, understandable value props that, you know, your potential audience would relate to.
Exactly. One thing that I did recently was I trained a GPT on our persona index, right? And now, what if I had a list of all of my product features? Could I then maybe make another GPT that can connect the dots between my personas and my products to help me understand, hey, who here could benefit the most based off of what they care about? And then that could be what's driving your internal enablement as well. Like, these are the use cases that are relevant. Let's make sure someone approves them, share those. Like, that's on my wish list right now.
Nice. No, I think this is the way you guys are approaching it. Given the you know, the resources that you guys have, sounds like you are really sort of maximizing the value addition of the marketing team and leveraging all this AI in various ways to really add value to the organization. So, in your experience, after all that work, how has AI impacted the effectiveness of the demand generation compared to traditional methods? Are you seeing a difference?
I am really seeing a difference. So, just to, like, paint a picture, I've been with Tomorrow.io since last March. Before March, there were some changes on the marketing team that occurred. So, like, our blog had been stagnant. There really hadn't been anyone effectively doing social media marketing, and which then meant, like, you have someone trying to work in 4 different functions of marketing and not doing one of them, like, any kind of success, right? So I came in and I saw, why are we only publishing 3 blogs a month right now? Why are we only posting on socials when big things happen? Let us first create a publishing cadence. And I can easily do that with AI. So now I need to figure out, what does that cadence look like and how much am I going to be doing? So within my first 6 months, I was able to almost quadruple our blog output, because SEO was something we were really, really focused on. And I was able to do so because of 2 things. I was using another tool that I didn't mention, is SEO Wind. SEO Wind helps you create keyword intent focused blog outlines. So imagine if you could plug in your keyword to a tool and it would automatically give you an outline that was already tailored to what the search intent was of that keyword and exactly what you wanted to hit on. Right. So I started using SEO Wind, and I also inherited a blog. So I had 200 pieces of content that I now have to audit, figure out which ones need to be updated. And so for the most part, I was running through creating new existing content while updating my existing library and adding at least 50% additional content, or changing the entire blog completely. So I kind of had this library I could run with, which allowed me to then publish, I was publishing like 10 to 12 blogs a month, that were all SEO optimized, that then had bigger impacts overall. So because we're publishing more frequently, we're getting more traffic to the website. Because we're getting more traffic to the website, I am getting more leads coming in and demo requests from my blog, which is then turning into opportunities for the organization and the company. So that's one way that we're able to say, hey, we were able to speed up our content processes, and as a result, we're seeing more traffic to the website, which is giving us more opportunities and more leads. It is also like just increasing our SEO presence, which traffic wise for us means an increase in our freemium sign up. Like, we offer a free API, and over the past year, within like 2 quarters, I believe last year, we saw a 60% increase in the freemium as a result of we're creating more content consistently, it's SEO optimized, and we're able to get it up quickly. And then, like, my motto when I create content is get it up and then we can fix it. Get it up and then we can optimize, then we can reiterate, because you're just missing out on a lot of real estate with emerging topics, for example. And so I can talk about this. We recently announced our resilience platform at tomorrow.io. That came as a result of hearing from customers, hearing from the weather world that resilience is something that matters a lot. And because of that, we were able to move really, really fast, right? Like, nice. How often do you get messaging and new branding within a week and a half?
Yeah.
Not often. And so this has given us an opportunity to create another category for ourselves that I think larger organizations or organizations not using AI won't be able to do or move as quickly because they don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things I hear from marketers and their bosses, I talk to a ton of CMOs and marketing leaders, and there's a belief that yes, AI is going to make things better, it's going to be more efficient, but a lot of them sort of end up asking about is it quantifiable? Can I demonstrate, quantifiable outputs, and based on everything that you're saying, sounds like, quadruple the output of your content and increase, your freemium signups and that sort of stuff. There's lots of evidence in that. In fact, I was reading a post on LinkedIn from, one of the IBM executives where they went down and were talking through all of the 2023 AI-related products or AI-related projects that they did, and were able to, in quantifiable terms, demonstrate the value that AI was bringing into the organization. So is that something in your world, do you sort of collate those KPIs and share them out? Because that would sort of remove some of the fuzziness that people think that AI is great, but we don't know what the quantifiable outcomes are. So is that something you do inside the organization?
It's something that we're in the middle of doing. Like, we basically now have like a year's worth of information to help fuel, like, okay, is everyone adopting AI? is everyone using it, and how are we using it, and what for? So like,
what are you getting out of it?
Exactly. Yeah. But like, I think it is definitely quantifiable. Like, based on the growth that we've seen, yes, I can measure it that way. But like, even just taking a step back, when you are first deciding to use AI or first starting to use it, how are you deciding what you're using it for? Like, I think as marketers, we have an opportunity to just do some practice exercises to figure out, how much time do I spend on the tasks that take me all my time? What do I spend my week on every single week? Like, what am I doing? And as content marketers, it's easy for us to say, well, I write X number of blogs, I produce X number of socials, I like that kind of stuff, right? That's easy to do. But then we also have to think about, well, what about the other tasks that we take care of? Like, things that come in ad hoc, our meetings, all of that. If you can mind map what your week looks like, where you spend the majority of your time on your marketing work, you can figure out where AI can help you make an impact just by like, oh, I spend 8 hours doing X task, AI for X. Like that's an easy way to start using AI and to have it mean something to what you're actually doing. So that's one way to quantify it. Right? Like, let's measure the impact of the time that I'm saving in order to do something else. So that's kind of how, like, for example, I did that exercise about a year ago, and I figured out, wow, I could probably save 4 hours in my content creation process. Where am I now going to spend those 4 hours? And for me, it was SEO optimization or doing social media tasks, because now I have the time to optimize the blog and to make sure it looks good, and then also create 5 different video snippets that I can schedule over the next month. Right?
Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah. Like, if you can mind map your time, then you can see that, like, in the output, you are saving so much. And then by saving all that stuff, like I said before, we're seeing an increase in content creation, an increase in social media stuff, which is then feeding us more traffic to the website, which is then giving us, increased, freemium signups, which then leads to more demos for my sales team, which, then I can say, wow, me saving, 12 hours a week and using those 12 hours on something else means I was able to create X dollar amount in ARR based on content.
Nice. Very cool. So, I mean, you have been doing a lot, and that's a lot to unpack what you just walked everybody through, which is very cool. But talk a little bit about, the challenges that you have faced, because I hear people, I hear different things from people where they're talking about, oh my gosh, I don't have time. I don't have time to get away from my day-to-day to sort of spend time learning about AI, or, hey, my bosses don't get it, or we don't have the funding for AI tools and, everything under the sun. But would love for you to share, what kind of challenges have you faced and how have you overcome that in your journey?
Yeah. So I have been fortunate enough that in my roles, AI has been encouraged. Like, I have been, like, it's been a top-down initiative of, we're going to start using this tool, go learn how to use it, right? So in my experience, my pain has come from just, okay, I have to now learn this tool and teach it to everyone else. I've also been introduced to tools, and then I'm thinking, oh, that person will run with it. And then it's like, hey, can you run this now? And so then, right? And so then I have to go learn the tool and figure it all out. So it's always really cool to try a new tool, but unless it's something that I can explain to someone else how to use, it's not going to be very valuable to me, and it's not going to actually be worth it. And the other thing that I've had to learn in this journey is, I'm sure you've noticed this, like a year ago, there was this big boom of generative AI tools, or just generative AI being plugged into existing tools and existing platforms. And then what do? You're overwhelmed and you're overflooded by all these tools. So I've had the chance to then vet more of those tools and be like, no, you can do that using something that already exists. Right. So I've had to learn more about that. Like, can this tool do X task, or do I need to have another tool that does that individually? So that's been a really big pain point, just in having to learn everything, understand the different nuances. Like, I can't tell you the number of just email threads I have with customer support teams where I'm asking, hey, how do you do this? I'm trying to do this, because their help center just doesn't address it. And so then that causes another issue, which is like, how do I drive the adoption across my team? Right? Like, I am now responsible for learning it, understanding it, and teaching everyone, which makes me feel like I am responsible for driving the adoption of this tool across my organization, right? So then, luckily, driving adoption is not super part of my role, but I am the one who then has to like run the workshop on using this and make sure that people can understand how to make the most of it. So then I am having to be available for like office hours, just available for ad hoc questions. So my week will, like, sometimes I'll get people asking me questions about using ChatGPT just in general, or using other AI tools, or asking if I know of a tool. I will also get asked like troubleshooting questions, and sometimes I go to AI to give them an answer.
There you go.
So it's really been like learning it and then having to teach it to everyone else and supporting their adoption, while also having to do my job for the marketing team, and then also learn about these tools on my own.
Yeah. And sounds like, I mean, with all of that coming at you, people asking you questions, people expecting to learn all these tools, how have you sort of overcome that? Have you become a little bit more picky about, the type of tools that you would invest your time in? Because there's no shortage of tools. There's, tools coming at everybody fast and furious these days. And some of these tools I feel are just sort of mini features that eventually some of the other platforms would have. But how have you sort of dealt with that? Do you have a minimum criteria, or do you have a prioritization, or do you punt things and saying, okay, that's like a Q2 thing? What is your methodology of dealing with all of that?
It really depends on what the priority is of my team. Like at the moment, we are looking at a couple other AI tools that could potentially replace something that we're using, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not always like, hey, what else can we add? Hey, what else can we add? It's, hey, has there been any new updates to this tool that we saw 6 months ago that we could use now to replace something that exists?
Got it.
Right? And that's been a thing. Like today, we are evaluating a new tool that a year ago had 3 features, and today is a platform for go-to-market teams, right?
Yeah.
Like they have learned from their audience and finally tailored it enough that it's useful for other purposes. And so I kind of have a couple criteria when I'm looking at tools. It's, does this solve more than one problem, first off? Mm-hmm. Because I don't want a tool that can only do one thing. Yep. And I also don't want a tool that isn't going to support me in doing the things that I'm doing. Because I've signed up for something and had a terrible experience with their help center and their support team that I'm like, hey, I don't think it's worth using this anymore, especially because we just don't have the support to scale it. Right. And so I'm looking for usability. I'm also looking for, is this something that isn't going to cost us an arm and a leg to spread to the rest of my team? So we're considering cost, and then we're considering uses. I think the other thing we look at is just, does this complement and integrate with the other things that we're using?
Very important.
Right? Yeah. Because if you're going to add something new and, you can't connect it to your really big system, it doesn't connect to Salesforce, it doesn't connect to HubSpot, it can't do anything here for you, when that's where I wanted it to connect with information. So really, I'm looking at, is there more than one use case? Does the cost make sense for my team? And then, I blanked on the third one. But those 3 things are really what fuels my like tool search. And then I'm also bringing this to my team, because it's not just me who decides on it. Like, then I'll say, hey guys, do you want to give this a try and tell me what you think, if this is worth us exploring further?
All right. So that was awesome. There's so much good information out there. I feel like we could do a full episode with you, just do another episode, and I'm sure you're going to have more insights for all our listeners. But sadly, our time today has come to an end. But before we part ways, Ruth, for those folks who are just beginning to get on this, AI bandwagon, on their AI journey, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I have two big tips for those of you who want to know more about AI integration or just learning about AI in your marketing journeys. First is learn what's under the hood. Like, take a mini course from Google. I think Google Cloud has so many free courses just on what is AI and how is what goes into AI and what does all of it mean. I think if we understand what's under the hood and what's being talked about, then we can be, we can be the people who are understanding, or we can be the people who understand all of the updates, right? Like, what is OpenAI coming out with today? What does this new token limit mean? And what does this new machine learning update mean? If we can understand.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the question people ask me all the time. What are these parameters that this speak of? Yeah,
exactly. So if you can have some background on that, go get it, and you will be just a better marketer, a better educated person. And the other thing that I would say is to find your top 2 or your top 3 AI tools to use. And I'm not just talking about large language models. Like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini are fantastic, but pick a couple other tools that can help you do your actual marketing work. And that kind of goes back to my whole, what are the tasks and the projects that you work on consistently? And can you find a tool that'll help you drive those forward more?
Nice. That is very cool. To our listeners, I really hope that you've enjoyed today's conversation. I know I have. Ruth's excitement and passion for AI is super contagious. So hopefully that's coming across to you. For those of you who are listening to it from the audio version, we also have this posted on the video channel for Spark Novus. So if you go to sparknovus.com, click on the YouTube link, you should see the video posted on our YouTube channel. And yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. Any questions, thoughts, follow-ups? I will put all the tools that Ruth mentioned in the show notes so you can refer to it. But yeah, feel free to follow us, Ruth and me, on LinkedIn and ask any questions. But thank you for listening and keep innovating. Ruth, thank you very much.
Thank you, Aby. This has been fun.
Welcome to the electrifying world of the Marketing AI SparkCast, the go-to podcast for uncovering the revolutionary influence of artificial intelligence in the realm of marketing. Join Aby Varma, a visionary in B2B marketing, as he guides you through the dynamic and ever-evolving landscape where technology meets creativity. Each episode promises to ignite your curiosity and inspire you to harness the formidable power of AI to redefine the future of marketing. Get ready to fuel your mind with innovative ideas and trailblazing strategies that will set your brand ablaze in the digital marketplace.